I think the evidence for a designer is so obvious all around us. If you're walking through the woods and you find a painting hanging on the tree and you see no footprints, you see no people, you still conclude there was a painter. If you're walking through the woods and you find a building and you see no footprints, you see no people, you still conclude there was a builder. When you see a watch, that's proof of a watchmaker. When you see a creation, that's proof of a creator, whether you ever meet him or not. There just had to be one. There must have been a designer, whoever he was. There had to be a designer.
I am confused. Being philosophically consistent and being a very honest person, I'm sure you can tell me where God came from.
All right.
Go ahead.
All right, your question, where did God come from, assumes that you're thinking of the wrong, obviously it displays that you're thinking of the wrong God. Because the God of the Bible is not affected by time, space, or matter. If he's affected by time, space, or matter, he's not God. Time, space, and matter is what we call a continuum. All of them have to come into existence at the same instant. Because if there were matter but no space, where would you put it? If there were matter and space but no time, when would you put it? You cannot have time, space, or matter independently. They have to come into existence simultaneously. The Bible answers that in 10 words. In the beginning, there's time. God created the heaven, there's space, and the earth. There's matter. So you have time, space, matter, created a trinity of trinities there. Just, time is past, present, future. Space has length, width, height. Matter has solid, liquid, gas. You have a trinity of trinities created instantaneously. And the God who created them has to be outside of them. If he's limited by time, he's not God. The guy who created this computer is not in the computer. He's not running around in there changing the numbers on the screen, okay? The God who created this universe is outside of the universe. He's above it, beyond it, in it, through it. He's unaffected by it. So the concept that a spiritual force cannot have any effect on a material body, well then I guess you'd have to explain to me things like emotions and love and hatred and envy and jealousy and rationality. I mean, if your brain is just a random collection of chemicals that form by chance over billions of years, how on earth can you trust your own reasoning processes and the thoughts that you think? Okay, so your question, where did God come from, is assuming a limited God. And that's your problem. The God that I worship is not limited by time, space, or matter. If I could fit the infinite God in my 3-pound brain, he would not be worth worshiping, that's for certain. So that's the God that I worship. Thank you.
Okay, let me ask you, let me say another thing. I know where God came from. Man made him. I also know where your computer came from. From science. It was put together by people that understood physics and chemistry. It was put together by people that understood molecules and atoms. It was put together by people with intelligence, people that knew how to love and hate and carry on biological relationships because they have intelligence. We got intelligence because we have brains. We've got brains because we've got DNA.
The answer that the one gentleman gave, he said, obviously the computer is here because of man, because of intelligence. I mean, obviously this took a designer. Well, duh. So did the universe. So did the single cell in your body. So did every living creature. I mean, you can't explain the computer inside the computer, can you? And you can't explain the creation inside the creation. There has to be something above an intelligent designer. And you talk about devastating to talk to a person of faith. What you said a few sentences earlier was, or what the other gentleman said was, of course we don't see changes. Farmers have been raising dogs for, 4,000 years, and we don't see changes because it takes too long. If you don't see faith in there, I can't help you, okay? You are relying on the unseen. Oh yes, long ago and far away. Everything you said required faith.
Verse 9. I am God. I am God, and there is none like me. Let's go to the Bible. Let's go all over the Bible and just quote Bible. Right? Let's not reason out this. Let's just listen. When I come to the end of this survey, some of you may feel overwhelmed. Overwhelmed at the extent of God's sovereignty. It will take your breath away. At least it does mine. And you will face a choice. I'm just going to get you ready for this so you're not caught off guard. You will face a choice, having heard so much Bible with regard to the sovereignty of God. Will we see the sovereignty of God as our only hope for answers to prayers for the impossible? Got anybody you love? Or will we insist there's got to be a better hope than the sovereignty of God? Or no hope? That's the question you'll be facing. Sovereignty over nature. God is sovereign over the most random things you can imagine. Proverbs 16:33. The lot is cast in the lap, and every decision is from the Lord. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? In other words, they are utterly insignificant. And not one of them will fall to the ground apart from your Father. Even the hairs of your head are all numbered. The roll of the dice in Vegas, every one of them, or in your board game at home, and the tiny bird dying in 1,000 forests are governed by God. That's Jesus' way and the Proverbs way of saying there aren't any details too small for his control. That's his way of saying it. From worms in the ground to stars in the galaxy, God governs. Take the book of Jonah, all right? Got a very big fish, and the Bible says that he commanded this fish to swallow Jonah, and the fish obeyed. So fish do God's bidding. If he says them to do this, they do it. And he commanded a plant to grow up to give Jonah some shade. Plant, grow up. It obeyed. Plants do the bidding of God. Then he commanded a worm to kill the plant, to make Jonah hot and scold him for his bad attitude about Nineveh. So the worm obeyed. I take this totally seriously. Bacteria do God's bidding. God sees everything, and if anything is about to happen that he doesn't want to happen, he just says, stop, and it obeys. And if it didn't stop, he didn't tell it to stop, which means he's got a plan for it. Or the stars. Lift up your eyes and see who created these. He who brings out their host by number, calling them all by name, by the greatness of his might, and because he is strong in power, not one of them is missing. Why are stars where they are, doing what they do? He is mighty in power. That's why. I'm totally not a naturalist. I see fingers of God in the atom and in the galaxies all the time, every millisecond of history, controlling everything. I don't know what kind of God that you have who may be folding his arms, sitting back, doing nothing, letting the world run rampant. That's just not the biblical God, and therefore not our God. Psalm 147, verse 15. He sends out his command to the earth. His word runs swiftly. He gives snow like wool. They had 40 inches last week in the Smoky Mountains. God did that. He hurls down his crystals of ice like crumbs. Who can stand before his cold? I love living in Minnesota. Is that cold? That's God. You haven't felt cold yet, all you Californians. He sends out his word and he melts them. He makes his wind blow and waters flow. That's Psalm 47. Here's Job 37. He loads the thick clouds with moisture. The clouds scatter his lightning. They turn round and round by by His guidance to accomplish all His commands. He commands them, and on the face of the inhabitable world He does His bidding, whether for correction or for His land or for love. He causes it to happen. I love how clear the Bible is about the sovereignty of God over the natural world. Snow, rain, cold, heat, wind are the work of God. And when Jesus finds Himself in the middle of a life-threatening, raging storm, He stands up and speaks 2 words. Be still. And the wind stops, and the waves go flat.